Hello there sexy PlayStation gamers, and welcome back to another Pure PlayStation video review on Pure Play TV. And today we've got Ultracore for PS4 and PS Vita. If you've been holding your breath for the release of Ultracore, then let me give your loved ones my condolences, because Ultracore was originally supposed to release back in 1994 for the Sega Genesis, Amiga and Sega CD. The game's original developer, Digital Illusions, pulled the plug while the run-and-gun shooter was in its final stages. Now here we are a quarter century later, and developer Strictly Limited Games has swooped in and resurrected the game for a new generation. The two questions you're probably dying to know are A. Did Ultracore deserve the miracle of resurrection? And B. How many Jesus/zombie references am I going to ram down your throat in this review? The answer to B should be obvious. As many as I bloody can. But as far as if Ultracore is worth your time and money, you're going to have to stick around until the end to find out. Ultracore is a run and gun shooter that harkens back to the days of Metroid and Contra. In other words, everything a gamer wanted back in '94. Digital Illusions did a great job of keeping that 90s feel, from the iconic side-scrolling action to the classic 90s graphics and that chip-tune soundtrack. Hell, you even have to punch in a code if you don't want to start the game over after you lose all of your lives. How retro is that? Well, it was one bit of nostalgia I could have gone without, especially considering the codes are like 400 characters long. But that nitpick aside, running and gunning through the 5 stages of Ultracore, blasting robot after robot, collecting new weapons and keycards to access new, but similar, areas was a fun and retro-filled trip down memory lane. Each level had a similar look, but was cleverly designed and full of hidden rooms and tons of bad guys and level changes. On the PS4, my preferred way to play the game is using the right stick to aim and fire the weapons. I played the first level or so using the buttons to fire and the left stick to aim, because that's how I assumed it would be played after, years of playing games from that era in such a way. Now that does work, but it left me very frustrated. Using the left stick to move and duck whilst using the right stick to fire and aim made the game much more fluid and fun to play. Ultracore doesn't waste any time explaining this or much of anything about the game, and that's okay because it's basically a straightforward experience. I would have liked a little bit more explanation about the controls and maybe some story, but those areas aren't that deep anyway. Like the best games from the era, you'll find some hidden areas throughout the 5 main levels, along with power-ups and new, more powerful weapons. It's not all shooting here though, as there is a fairly large emphasis on the platforming aspect of the game, and I'm mostly talking about jumping from floating, moving or disappearing platforms whilst trying to avoid enemy turrets and flying robots. The jumping always felt a little bit floaty to me though, causing some frustration and, unfortunately, some cheap deaths. But the excellent run and gun gameplay more than made up for that. In addition to the many different robot bad guys you'll be blasting apart, you'll also have to deal with a few environmental hazards like electrified floors. Yeah, it's all stuff we've seen a million times, but we haven't really seen it in a package quite like this since the 16-bit generation. And, going again in Ultracore, it was a decent trip down memory lane. Aside from the frustration of punching in a long code to keep your progress, Ultracore suffers from a slight lack of polish. A quick explanation of the controls, tighter platforming controls as well, and cleaning up some of those cheap deaths and damage from enemies who drop down from elevators above without giving you any warning, that would have gone a long way. As it stands now though, Ultracore is a really good retro shooter and it does a lot right. And it really feels like a game I would have played and loved all the way back in '94. And that brings us to the end of this review, and if I'm looking at my script right, there was not a single zombie reference nor a Jesus reference. Failure. If you've made it to the end, well done, high five. If you didn't, I don't know you. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing and giving us a like, comment, join in with the fun, you know you want to. Until next time, keep washing your hands, stay sexy, bye!